Hey everyone, this is Jonathan with EthStaker. Welcome to community call number 53. We're excited to have Nico from Eth Nodes and the project that she's building there to join us to teach us about what this is and the new tools available to Eth stakers and people in the community with this set of tools. So um, yeah, thanks for joining us, Nico. And just to give everyone a sense of what it is, it's a package management system that's meant to help make it easier to set up and manage Ethereum staking node client software and evolve the state of the industry with how easy or difficult this is. But it's definitely intended to make it easier and still retain a lot of that fine-tuned management that we're all used to with managing our staking nodes. Um, so yeah, I think as far as the plan, we'll definitely get an introduction from Nico in a second here. Um, we will talk about the story of Eth Nodes and how it started, how it's gotten to be what it is, and some other configuration elements as part of it. Um, what people can do today and what's planned for the future, and also a demo. I think we're excited to be able to see a little bit of a like how does this work? I think a lot of times seeing is believing and understanding. So we'll be excited to have a view of that. And then any Q&A. So as anyone is listening or wants to ask questions either during the stream or after, just feel free to chat in the YouTube and we'll be monitoring that as well. Let's see if there's anything else I want to mention here. We'll stick around though for the end. We'll have a POAP for participation. So uh, we will make sure to get that for everyone. And I think with that, yeah, we can get started. Nico, I'll let you introduce yourself more as the lead of this project, but thanks for joining us. And um, maybe you can take a second to introduce yourself to get into things and then the story of Eth Nodes and what you've worked on here.
All right. Thank you for having me. It's really a great pleasure to be here. So I'm Rico. I'm basically kind of like a developer doing, I did kind of a lot of stuff, DevOps, like building. I still remember like the first time I saw Uniswap and I was like, wow, this is like amazing that you can just literally swap to coin in like 5 seconds. So I used to work in like banking industry, so I know it's like how slow it can be done that you send your money transaction and it's sometimes it takes like hours. Some bigger transaction can take weeks. So it's like this is like just under 5 seconds and that's just was amazing. So I was really captured by crypto by then, and I started, I not started, but there was a local meetup, was talking about a lot of crypto topics, and this was interesting. Unfortunately, the people who were doing it, they travel left the country. So I was taking over and I was hosting this meetup for 2 years. I got to meet more people. I got introduced to the Ethereum Fellowship while I was doing this, and I got accepted. So I was doing. I don't know if how many people are actually knowing the Ethereum Fellowship program. This is runs every year. This is basically a track for people to be a core developer or contributor to Ethereum, and you basically have a half year, either permissionly or permission way, where you either get a fund for the Ethereum Foundation or not. But it basically you get mentorship from the foundation, so you can build cool stuff. I got into a program, and was basically how I started working on Eth Nodes because there is basically project proposals that mean to progress Ethereum itself. There was a couple of other topics I was interested in, like there was improvements in the worker trees and peer-to-peer. But I chose this task because I felt like this is like such an unconventional one that nobody else is going to pick it up. So, and from previous experience, I was knowing that running a node is um, for me as a developer is not as easy as I would like really to have it. And I also, because I was doing user experience before, I know how like for me user experience should look like. So it's kind of like, I have all of these different experiences and based on that, I was really thinking that, yeah, nodering can be made much more easier. So to introduce Eth Nodes is, I'm always having hard time to explain what people this is, because it's basically multiplexing in one. And so at the top is basically um, a one command line installation, where you can just type sudo apt install Eth node mainnet, and it spins up everything for you. But to make this possible, it has different components that have to work together. So one is the reproducible build system, which give you the VM packages without Docker. So each client is packaged for the VM, so you can come and install it, and you already have the client binary, which is on your system, and it's automatically updated. So when you update, it's going to get pulled the new version. It's reproducible because it has to be important that I don't tinker with the build, so you can come and basically verify that the build is really what I'm saying it is. The second part is basically a hosted package repository where I push these packages. So you can basically just pull. And the third part is, which is like under currently building, is the standardized configuration for all the clients. So it solves the problem that sometimes different client name things differently. For example, you set up logging for one client in one way, logging for another client in another way. And basically what you want is just logging, and you want to log into files, so why can't you just do that? So there's a third step. So it's kind of like coming together with different concepts, and it's done in a way that it's modular. So it's not trying to give you everything. You can take, obviously, the one command install, but you can just go for, and you can just run the packages themselves, or you can just take the config builder and extend the load tool. So it's really trying to be using as much Linux philosophy as possible. So everything free and open source, and on top of that, it's modular. So it's not really a big software, but many small things working together. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I know you presented something about this at DevCon with us at the Node Operator Community Hub. So it's cool to see. I mean, I'll be interested to see kind of like how it's evolved over the last, what was that, like 6 or 7 months ago. So and I think it has a new name even. So that's obviously the first thing that stood out to me. But it's obviously a lot of work and some of the configuration elements that also you've built there. So yeah, it's cool to
Yeah.
see that process, how it's changed for you over time too.
Yeah, sure. Let's do the demo. So
Sure.
people can. Oh, okay. All right. So at the top is like, you can actually follow this demo guide on GitHub as well.
Yep, looks good to us.
Okay, cool. I already have all of these, but at the top you add the key, which is like um, uh, my signing key for the repository. I already have this, so it's all cool. I'm not going to repeat the repository add and testing because I already have this. Obviously, I can do a sudo apt update, but already have these. Insta dependencies is so some of the clients requires you to have Java, Node.js, and .NET. This will be coming from dependency later on in the packages. Right now, you can have to install separately. They are put into a separate package for now because I can imagine that some people want to use Oracle Java and some people want to use the OpenJDK. So I don't really want to make a decision for people. So if you have feedback how it should be done, very welcome to this. So I already have obviously this. So what you can basically have here is like each package that you can imagine is available through a package repository. If you follow the step, I already have the installed one because my internet connection tend to be a little bit slow, so I don't want to make people here in the demo. you can see I have built versions for each client. Each client is named with an Eth node prefix, but basically the same as the upstream source. The version is the same as what the clients push out. There is a revision number pushed after if it's that basically says that I can update if it's some dependency like .NET changes and I need to rebuild the source or some security patch or whatever needed. So I have Besu installed. I think I have all of them. So you can see it. But what I want to show you is basically the one command setup. I have already in my computer, so I'm going to purchase. I will show why I'm purging this later on, but just remove it first. So it's removed and no, let's install a package. So RegTest is basically my custom test network for testing purposes on the CI. This will be in the future going to be called, there will be a mainnet, Sapolia, Ephemery, etc. So it's they coming with their own packages. So you will install whichever you want. Okay. So as you can see, this is presents you with a package install screen where you can select the clients that you wish to install. I don't know which one you want. I can tell me which one you want to install.
Let's do Nethermind.
All right. Consensus.
I'll say Teku because those are the ones I run, so I want to see how it goes.
Okay, cool. All right. And here is like this is a demo because I think it is always enabled for this package, but enable staking, so you can select staking. And obviously you can select another validator client. I don't know which one ever you want to pick.
Let's do Lodestar for this one.
All right, cool. So this is a special test net. As you can see, this is going to allocate already some pre-mined addresses and pre-filled. So this is basically a test net. So it's not any outside network. Is completely running on my own computer. And what you have here is right. I always So you can check the status of each service. So I think Eth Nodes Tech was obviously I typed it wrong. So you can see there is a Teku service running. What was the other one? There was Lodestar validator. So if it's a validator, it's got ending validator. So you can see it's already running. And which was the first which we selected?
It was
Nethermind.
Nethermind,
Yeah. So you can see it's running. Obviously, these are just running clients, but you can basically check the status. It's already basically producing blocks. So like started with Z2, and if you wait a little bit, it's free and so on. Obviously, I can submit the transactions and check if it's gets submitted. It's going to be because it's a fully working a client. I'm going to omit this and you can try it out on your own. I think it's quite easy. What I want to show is the logs themselves. So each of this is basically going to be logged into under the logs directory. So you can check the logs and see if what is going to log there. So Teku. Oh yeah, I always forget. And you can see what is going on. So this is like built in already, and all clients set up the logging. You can also check out the system files and all of the directories is I think Eth Nodes rig test. So you can see I didn't remove that. one more stuff I want to show is that you can see that these are installed, but if I remove this package, sudo apt remove eth node rect as full. Yes. All right, and if I actually reinstall this package, one stuff that you won't be seeing is the configuration screen. So as you can see, there is no configuration screen, and this is because the configuration themselves are in under etc, and Debian has a dp. I think I actually forget to put it dbconf db. All right. I always forget what the name. Okay, if I find it or not find it. Okay, I don't find it, but that's clear.
So
It's yeah.
yeah, so I'm just trying to like make sure I understand where we've come from this point. Like, because I think like usually when we're setting up a staking node, there's I don't know. I guess my experience was that there was a whole bunch of steps for installing each software. I know there's other ways as well, but just doing it like
Mhm.
through the command line, it would like, if I'm using something like the Somarisat guides or whatever, there would have been a whole bunch of kind of individual steps to get each of those clients set up. But you just picked it through obviously the selector that you had, and then it just did
Mhm.
all those kind of behind the scenes. Is that like a simplified way of thinking of what we just observed there?
Yes, exactly. So you will basically all of the packages are and setup is going to be pulled. The screens that you see is like basically a console screen, which is basically working through a config, which is only have like three pickable options right now is the clients themselves. So it's like which consensus execution and validator client you are picking. That's why I'm working on the config builder itself, because that has like, I think hundreds of different options, and I need to kind of standardize that. And then those options are actually going to be put into this screen, and which is basically a config file. So you either going to be presented a config file, which is already configured, and you can skip all of the steps like clicking on the menu, or the menu is going to let you pick all the options for each value that you are actually setting up. So if you, for example, don't want logging, if you want to have monitoring, the monitoring is already going to be set up and installed for you. If you, what else you want? I don't know, you want to set up transaction, kind of pool details and so on. So each of this stuff is something that I think it's can be just coming from a config, and the config is just give you an option to enable all of those sub-services. So it's a really can be configured through packages themselves. So the user doesn't really have to think of how this is actually set up, and they just we can focus on what they want, and not how it is actually working under the hood.
Hmm. Okay. And like, so was at some point in that process you showed us, like, where would like the key generation, would that have already had to have happened before like
Oh
the key
yeah,
store
so this
generation?
is so this is the stuff I so if I remove these are demo packages. So this is the rec test here. So you can see the full source code here on GitHub, and uh, these are not having rec test. I'm not sure where I put the keys for it, but it's basically in the package already. So it's like it's already in the packages themselves. So the keys will be a config details as well. This one is already have the keys baked in because it's a test network, and the test network already has to know which validators have to be started to start producing blocks. So there is like no validator queue in this test net. because it's really meant for to just to test that the clients work correctly.
Okay.
But
And
yeah,
so
so there will be an option for that you can basically put your keys.
cool. Um, so maybe so there's like the whole configuration part of it too, right? Like I guess when I think about managing the staking nodes or the staking software and everything, there's obviously, as we saw with Pectra just recently, there's a huge component of being really cognizant of what version you're on and updating that. So like what is like I'm just trying to think from the perspective of a staker who maybe, already is not already doing something like this to, and maybe doing it more of like a manual management of their software.
Mhm.
Like, what would this future world look like, using ETH nodes? Are there ways to control what version you're on or all the different settings, like in the exec start line? Um, is that what the configuration tool is doing? Or is that something that's part of like the core ETH nodes?
So
Uh,
that's basically coming from Debian apt because each version basically can be pulled through the apt. So each version is a different package, so you can just pull it. You can also pin the packages, so that means that you don't get updates for that package if you wish so. And you can, I will have, currently I only have testing and mainnet repository, but in the future I will, for example, have release candidates repository. And I'm also going to use the Debian package urgency fields, which is like have emergency, critical, high, low, and medium. So you can even step off what kind of updates you want. So if it's an example, a client team saying that there is like some critical package that you like client, for example, Besu has some kind of security stuff and it must be installed on each node. You can just basically say that you only want security patches for your node, and it's you can set up the through opt itself that it's going to get pulled automatically for you. So if it's like a low stuff, that's okay. You don't want to pull every or some people will want to, but some people like really want to have the criticals like as soon as possible, and it's can be automated throughout.
okay. Um, there's this question from the YouTube chat that I can ask here from Thomas. Thinking about migrating, eventually, if someone wanted to migrate to using ETH nodes from
Mhm.
something like a native Geth installation, is there a recommended way to do that? And maybe you can talk a little bit about like what is the current state of the project in terms of like,
Mm.
can someone go and do this on testnet or even mainnet, or when are you planning that? And just for when that is possible, what the
Yeah,
recommended way
so
of doing that would be for migrating.
migration is something I planned, but right now I'm working heavily on the configuration builder, and what the configuration builder is doing is that allows you to have a base config and just spits out the commands for each client. So you have the get, data etc. So it's basically just the command running line, which you can search on GitHub how it works. And this is basically backward compatible. So when you want to basically migrate, I imagine that I'm going to build the tokenizer for this, so you can basically import your old settings. And the old settings you get basically just one config file, and you can put that one config file when you install it node mainnet, and it's already done. So it's kind of like to be two-step process. And the first step is like you're just really trying to get your config file, so you didn't change anything yet. And when you're ready to migrate, you start installing the package and putting the new config file into the process. It isn't not done because I think first I really have to finish the config builder, and it's quite a big task.
Cool. Yeah, I know. And I see he also mentioned here about, a migration guide and things like that. I know how much I've benefited from guides and all of that, and the GitHub repo is like a great source of, you know, the core material. But whenever there's guides, I feel like it always kind of removes friction when you're like, okay, somebody's like tested this out and felt confident enough to write this guide. And so
Mm.
that's, I know something people are always eager to see whenever they're considering something like this. Um,
So So one of the stuff is that, yeah, I'm definitely working on the docs. It's just trying to really focus at first shipping the stuff.
Totally.
But the config itself is you also have to think of it like a validation. So when you have a config, you kind of be sure that it's going to work correctly. So it's not just a config file, but also the validation layer that you didn't redo like stuff that you are not, like for example, picking wrong mainnet ID for mainnet, or selecting IPC communication for two clients that doesn't support IPC, and but it's same for migration, that you're trying to put or use some kind of users that you shouldn't be using. So this is like heavily in work in progress,
Sure.
and it's not done, but that is kind of like how I would approach is like, sure, there is a guide, but mostly I'm trying to pick all of this up through software. So the software would be like the guide that holds your hand when you are doing something that you are not ought to be doing. And I think what I really want to achieve with this project is, sure, guides are really good, but as much as can be automated and put into like like something that really helps people along, and they don't really have to understand each step, but understand the main areas how nodes run. I think that's what I'm trying to do here.
Totally. Okay, a question that came to mind for me that I don't think I had already written down, but it's like when we have when if we're using something like this, and maybe this is just like understanding around like how the APT stuff works in general for all the package
Mhm.
management. Like I think stakers are very interested in independence and like understanding clearly where there's points of reliance on another system or another person
Mhm.
even. So like if someone were to be using ETH nodes,
Mhm.
are they relying on ETH nodes or you or someone as a point of trust in a new way? Or is this still like, are they still able to maintain, uh, that element of full control? Like,
Mhm.
would someone migrating from like um, a manual installation to an ETH nodes installation be, giving up anything in terms of that control or reliance? Yeah. Are you able to like kind of describe that at all, or how we should
Yeah,
think of that?
sure. Yes and no. Everything is open source and it's on GitHub, so you can fork it and you can manage it. So one of the stuff is like when I'm coming with like one command installation. So I provide, for example, packages that come through apt. But if you don't like those apt packages, you can basically say that you're using Docker, or you can build it from source and just basically just switch to the past that. So it's not my packages run, but for example, that's what you push. So for example, if I don't release quickly enough a security update, you can just build it yourself and just point to that binary on your computer. So it's very mix and match solutions. So you take as much as you want, and you can. I think what I want people to start is like really playing around that. That's like PCs and a very modular. So like the config builder is not really dependent on Linux, can be run on Mac and Windows. It's or all Linux itself. So that's like standalone pings, the packages themselves are standalone with. You don't have to use my command, one command installation. You can come up with your own script on top of it. So it's very meant to be not to lock you in any kind of way. It's like really that was the idea that it gives you the full flexibility as well. So so um, yeah, I mean, you still reliant on me, but if you use the package repository, so there is like definitely point of failures in the system, and you have to know that like sure what you are trusting me on it. Like I told you, like there is like reproducible builds, so you are trusting me, so I'm using my own as much possible Debian tools, but a little bit difference, but I really have to make sure that the builds themselves are creating the same hash for the same package. Uh, yeah, I mean, yes and no. You have to look into the project and decide it for yourself. So it's up for your judgment.
makes sense. Always verify. And being open source, I guess, allows that opportunity to do that, right? So I think that's pretty important. Um, Are you so one of the things that, and we don't have Thorsten on this, but we've supported through EthStaker, EthDocker, and I guess I'm just curious to understand. I don't know if this is if you're familiar, how familiar you are with EthDocker or others here on the call, but
Um,
just thinking, I just wanting to understand like how to think of them in comparison to one another, and like kind of what use case this would be intended for versus EthDocker or different kind of audiences for each one. Um, I don't know if you're comfortable, if you're
um,
like able to speak to that at all, or if anyone else on this is like, I don't
I was
use I'm more of like a manual um you know staker, but like I know a lot of people use EthDocker, and there's like all these different flavors kind of coming about now that people can stake in very customized ways. So I just was curious about that comparison.
um, I'm really not sure how Docker is working like
Okay.
but one definite um, difference is definitely that I'm not using Docker, so it's trying to move with Docker. So it's like, sure, if you want to put Eth nodes into Docker, do it, but it's like an optional. So it's like I feel that everything is run under Docker these days or containerization, and that has overheads. And there is certain aspect or scenarios where you want to use it. Um, um, I don't think it's an easy way for non-developers to maintain systems with Docker. So it's really trying to be one of the core ideas to not to use Docker and get away from it, which has certain performance benefits because Docker can up to 10% less of performance depending of who you ask. I think there was this research data, so I'm quoting on that. Because it's a Dockerization, you have to measure uh, yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah, I just figured that would be an interesting thing for people that are familiar with, those different ways of staking. So, um, that makes sense though. Yeah, I know like whenever I run something, any piece of software using a APT package, it's like you don't even think about you don't even think about what's going on behind the hood. Like you're just kind of trusting what's there in many ways, but also it's going to be an open source thing typically, I think, and so it's like very easy, I think, installing things like that. So I think that vision for this is that makes sense, at least for someone like me. That's how I think of it.
oh
Uh,
yeah. One more stuff to add is that each build is built on the GitHub, so you can go into GitHub and you can go into release and you can even see the build presets itself and you download the Debian itself. So um, it's yeah, so it's completely open. And obviously, you can open the package, the Debian, because it's just an archive, and you can untar it, and then you can see what's the contents inside and how it's going to be laid out on your disk.
okay. A couple of one-off questions here. This one from Synthex from the YouTube is this usable with Nosis Chain, or is it going to be whenever, like how should people think about Nosis Chain?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, I'm really just trying to uh, support what I have on the roadmap right now, like Mainnet, Sepolia, Ephemery, these kind of test networks. Definitely going to support other kinds of stuff. In this case, I think it would be quite easy. It's just so one of the stuff that is going to for me to simplify this is the config builder, because the config builder allows me to have configs for each network, and whenever I install it, it's just basically have a different configs for each package, which was quite So I was putting all of the scripts into each package before, and it was not really something that's scalable. So I think when I have the config builder, it's quite easy to put support other chains as well, because it's basically just a config change.
Okay. And maybe one more question here about support or like integration with, like, if someone's thinking of doing this and then you ends up using it and is doing something like MEV boost sidecar type
Mhm,
software, like, is that something that you're considering building into this, or like someone could just run that on the side anyway, just like they would,
mhm.
and integrate with this? Like, that would all, is there a way that would kind of work together and be something someone could still use?
So I don't have familiarity with MapBoost running, so I don't know how it works, but I can imagine it's just another package. So I would need to, if MapBoost is a package, I have to package it first, and after it have to put into support for the config, and would be basically quite easy to support it. So it's what it's trying to be is like when you have a config, you can be quite modular what you are installing or what you are supporting, because it's basically just a config, and the config, it's basically you can write a big switch of like, okay, if it's monitoring, you put the monitoring package. If it's map boost, then you enable the map boost settings for that, and it's basically done.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I need all of these ideas and features that people want to receive supported, so I can plan for this. I'm relatively new to node running and development. Like for the last 2 years, I'm working on this project, but the more I know, the more I realize I don't know a lot of stuff. So I definitely want people to tell me what they would like to use it for, and what features they want.
Cool. Yeah, like I know there's a number of places that you have beyond the GitHub. You've got the website, right? eth-nodes.com. And then I saw you're also on Twitter. I think we linked to the account that you guys have with the
Mhm.
EthStaker post that we did just before this, so people can. It sounds like you're all ears for people's suggestions, questions, um,
Absolutely.
support on the project. So that's great. Yeah, I guess I'm also interested if there's anything in terms of like other calls to action or things people can expect in the coming. It sounded like you had some things in the near term this summer that
Mhm.
you're expecting. You want to go into like what people can expect
Yes,
in that time
so
frame?
the beta is coming. It's I feel the main packages for most networks will be coming. So this is all depends of Smithy, which is like the config builder, and I might have to chip back on the supported features by because it's getting way bigger and bigger. But it will be possible that you will be able to start using it. It will be beta, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to either recommend it on testnet first or for mainnet without staking, just because I can imagine all the stuff that is not going to work. So it's really going to be a beta, and yeah. So like I really want to push this out like the next month or July. Yeah, June, July.
Okay. We'll be excited to hear about that and when people can be testing it. Seems imminent. Um, let's see if there's any other questions. I'm just looking at the chat here. Um, or anyone else here on the stream, any questions or other parts of it? Okay. I think this has been really cool. I like seeing new stuff like this getting developed and sharing your story about it. So thanks for that,
Mhm.
Aniko. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Um, I think before we, yeah, before we end things, and if there are no other questions, I would want to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity for the POAP for this event. So if we're ready for that, Remy, do we want to share? It's on screen. All right, awesome. So you all know the drill, I think. You send 0.005 ETH to this address, poap.ethstaker.eth, and Oh, one. Oh, we. All right. Sorry. Let's don't oversend. Okay. 001 ETH, and that will mint it. It's at Pulp Airship, and that'll mint it directly on Arbitrum. So this is a POAP minted and powered by Arbitrum, and we're excited to have them supporting that. And yeah, nice little cool EthStaker Eth Nodes POAP to commemorate this. And so make sure to collect that for anyone here. And I think you have a couple of days where that's possible. So if you watch the recording the next day or so, that would be something you can still get. I wanted to also just make sure everyone's aware there's a open call for topics. If there's something that you think would be great to feature on one of these community calls for EthStaker, jump into the Discord, um, suggest it. We're all ears for these. We have a whole set of candidates that we like to consider, and then we try to schedule these every roughly once a month. Sometimes more, sometimes the frequency can change, but um, we like to do that. And also, I just want to also plug that there is currently still open a survey that EthStaker is running for stakers. And anyone who's thinking about staking or interested in staking, even if you're not a staker yet, or if you've been a staker and are a professional, like everyone in between, we want to make sure that if you haven't done that yet, please fill it out. It should not take more than 10 to 15 minutes max. We it is East, yeah, that's a good point. It is on, yeah, let me do that. EthStaker. It's let me see here. It's EthStaker dot, well, before I misstate it. EthStaker.org/forms/staking-landscape-survey-2025. So say that 10 times fast. Perfect. Perfect. So it would be great to have as many people fill that out as you can. It'll only let you do it once. So if you're worried, if you go there and you've already filled it out, it'll already say you've done that already. And we appreciate you having done that. So and that'll close soon. So try to do that if you're still bookmarking that. Try to get that done soon, and then we'll have 2025's results able to share soon after that closes. So cool. Well, thanks, Nico, again for joining and sharing your story in this project, and uh, everyone for listening. Thanks for coming. And if that's it, I think we will call it a call. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.